Anciently, there was a saying across the Roman Empire, which is etched in the stones in Belfast. It's in Latin. And it says, pro tanto quid retribuimus. What does that mean? What relevance does it have to us? I'll tell you in a minute. But first, I want to just thank you all for being here to be a part of this. Thank you to Justice Brewer and to our elected officials and those that are about to be elected officials in high office. Thank you to our honored guests who've come so far. And thank you to my friends and neighbors from across the state that have come here to celebrate this day. And to Senate President Courtney, thank you for allowing us to be here today with you. I want to introduce you to some new friends of mine. I don't know them all yet, but these are the individuals who make the Secretary of State's office function. And so if you are part of the staff or the directors, you work every day without a claim and do your duty and do your jobs, and the people don't even know that it's happening. They just know if it doesn't happen right. But you make it happen right on a day-by-day basis. So, can we recognize all of you? Would you stand if you work for the Secretary of State's office? It is my honor to work with you, and I look forward to learning from you the immensely important duties of this office that I have. Pro tanto quid retribuimus. Why is that relevant? Let me tell you a story so you get to know me a little bit better. While Governor McCall was getting sworn in, I was just before that happened, I was in Vietnam, and I had been flying helicopters, and I learned a lesson that has helped me today, and hopefully will help me be a Secretary of State. I was flying helicopters, and it was into a combat area, and I had been assigned to bring in a dozen people that were just from a village that needed to be questioned. And so they got on board the helicopters, and there was no straps, there was no seat belts. They were just sitting all huddled together on the deck of the helicopter that I was flying. And so I took off, and these are folks that had never even ridden a bicycle before. And so they were very concerned because they didn't know what I was going to do with them. And so as we're flying and coming toward the landing zone, in combat, you don't make a normal kind of approach because the last 200 feet, you're called a target, right? Because you're going slow and you're low. And so what we do is a high overhead approach. And what that meant is you go over the landing zone at 3,000 feet or so, and then turn the helicopter on its side and do a corkscrew approach so that you're not exposed to enemy fire. Well, to the folks that were on this aircraft, physics, what they knew about this was that if you had a pail of water and you tipped it, it's going to pour out. And so I've done my pre-flight, I'm in my pre-landing check, I check my gauges, I know where the wind is, I know what I'm doing, and I'm making this corkscrew approach. And the people behind me are screaming. They're terrorized. And this is strange, I'm not used to this. Anyway, I make the landing, everything works out fine, I'm safely on the ground. They jump out of that helicopter, kissing the ground, so grateful to be alive. And as I thought about this, I realized it's one thing to have authority. I was the aircraft commander. But it's another thing to take responsibility for those over whom you have authority. And that changed me. From then on, as a pilot, as a father, as a grandfather, as an attorney, as a city councilman, as a legislator, as a citizen, and now as Secretary of State. I hope you know that it's my commitment that I'll take seriously the responsibility that I have with this authority. So what does that have to do with pro tanto quid retribumus? That Latin statement is translated as, having been given much, what will you give? So I came out of retirement, and you folks, some of you, voted for me. As Secretary of State, I will represent every one of you. And it's right and appropriate that Congressman Walden spoke as a Republican, and I want you to know, as the Secretary of State, I will be functioning as an Oregonian. And it's my commitment that you will not know whether I have an R or a D behind my name, because the work that I do and the leadership that I hope will give to our entire staff, all the various divisions, is that we are to ensure that the people are well represented, that their money is well spent, that the elections are open, fair, and honest, and that everyone who has an eligibility to vote has the opportunity to vote. That our corporations division removes whatever red tape and barriers we can while ensuring the integrity of our system, so that we can have our Oregon businesses grow and expand and invite businesses from other countries to come and settle in Oregon, which helps create Oregon jobs and helps our economy. These are things that we can do. Our audits capacity will be used to track the people's money, to make suggestions to the policymakers on best evidence practices, and hopefully be a resource in a nonpartisan way to have good information to make wise decisions in these hallowed halls. So that's what it means to me when I think about pro tanto quid retribumus. And I would end by just asking if each of us might consider ourselves. Have we been given much? In our homes, in our families, in this great state of Oregon, in our country, people are still hoping someday to come to America, and many to come to Oregon, a land of the pioneers, a land of freedom, a land of opportunity. What can each of us do, having been blessed so much? Can you serve a little bit more in your neighborhood? Is there a widow who has no one to watch out for her? Are there children that need a friend? Can you be a signpost for a teenager? You can speak only in very short sentences, but if, as a signpost, you're really trying to direct in the right direction. How about serving in your community, in your cities, in your counties, or on the state level? For our system to work, we have to have individuals with a skill set who are willing to leave the comforts of their Monticello or Mount Vernon or Central Point. Certainly about Jefferson or Washington, but the principle applies to each one of us. In our homes, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, is there something more that we can give, that we can do? Pro tanto quid retributus. Having been given so much, what can we give? Thank you for allowing me to give as your Secretary of State.